was at that conference that God just broke my heart for the issue. I was just sitting in a seat much like you are now, and I felt like God said, Mark, go serve this population. And I also felt very clearly at the time, if not you, then who? I was like, okay, whatever that looks like. So here I am, I have a semester left in school, and I'm going, all right, God has called me to fight human trafficking. Okay. So I get back to UNCW, I researched the issue in one of my political science classes. I think I wrote a thesis paper on it, studied it as much as I could, and I found that it was a huge problem. At that time they were saying there's 27 million slaves worldwide. Nowadays they're saying 30 million slaves worldwide. But aside from that, what really shocked me is how regular it was happening in the U.S. And basically for me, when I learned that in my city of Charlotte, that there was a girl, you know, a 12-year-old girl being trafficked and raped multiple times a night. As a Christian and as a man, I just couldn't sit on that, and I felt like I was saying do something about it. So I finished college. I tried to find any group I could find. There was mainly awareness groups at that time. There wasn't a lot of hands-on activity going on. So I did my own investigations. I found some activity. I reached out to law enforcement and said, hey, you guys know about this? And kind of got the runaround. And what I was finding was there was not a huge effort on the rescue side. And then I came to discover, at that time in 2010, there was only 100 beds nationwide, particularly designated for human trafficking survivors. 100 beds in the entire country, okay? So I was like, well, that's a problem. And I saw that obviously we needed increased efforts in rescue and increased efforts in available housing once you get them out. So I felt like God was telling me start an organization. So literally that May, after graduating, I started pursuing that. I moved back in with my parents. They were living in South Carolina, so I was living in a basement in South Carolina at the time. And then I started researching how does one start a nonprofit. Columbia, South Carolina is the capital. I literally just drove down and started talking to some nice people behind government buildings, and we're like, hey, so do you know, can you point me in the right direction? I kid you not, in half a day, I got incorporated as Justice Ministries Incorporated, okay? That's pretty crazy. So skipped months of filing and return email and all that. I just did it in person. I was like, hey, can I pay cash today and get registered? I said, sure. So I got incorporated in the first half day. Then I found some law students, because to file for what you call a 501c3 status cost about $10,000. I didn't have it. So I was like, well, how are we going to pursue this? And I found some 3Ls, some law students that were willing to file my paperwork for me. And then, I kid you not, in a month after filing, I got it back from the IRS. And we were a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization ready to combat human trafficking. So here I am again going, all right, God, when you gave me this, and now what? So I started speaking, trying to raise some funds and awareness of my own, and I began to research more on activity. I found some strange things in Charlotte that I hadn't noticed before. There were erotic, ethnically based massage parlors that didn't seem to be your regular massage envy, you know what I mean? And I was like, well, clearly sex is being sold here. And then I just tried to find any other just activity that seemed sketch. And I made some Google Maps of it and would send it into authorities, send in tips, and see what happened. But I was frustrated because obviously law enforcement's not calling me back and saying, hey, Mark, that tip was great. Thanks, sport. And, you know, we made a bust. So I don't know what's happening. So around going into 2012, I was kind of frustrated. I was like, okay, God, you gave me this, you gave me all this opportunity, but, you know, where are the victims? How am I going to get to them? And then I heard about these group of ladies that were going into strip clubs, and they would go once a month and just bring goodie bags into various strip clubs across Charlotte. They get care packages. They weren't going in to say, hey, what you're doing is wrong and you need to quit your job and all this stuff. They were just going to develop relationships and say, hey, I love you, you're valued, and I wanted to bring you a free gift and just talk to you and hear from you, really. And out of that, many relationships were birthed. And that group, they called themselves Rise Up. So I met with them and said, hey, I love what you're doing. That's awesome. You're able to do something that I'm not really able to do. At the time, I was single. As a single male, or a married male for that matter, I shouldn't be going into strip clubs to outreach, you know. So I was like, you know, how can I serve you guys? And they said, well, really, we don't really have any men with our teams. If you could come and just hang out with us, hang out in the parking lot while we go in, just for security measures if something happened. And I was like, absolutely. And also at the time, they hadn't really developed a next step, okay? What if we meet a girl in the club that wants to get out? Now what? And I said, well, I love what you're doing. I need a female aspect to what I'm doing, and I can offer the male aspect. let's combine our efforts. So in fall of 2012, we decided to merge our efforts, and so I had these women that were kind of the ground troops going out to do outreach and engage, and we started offering a hotline number. And when we did that, it all got crazy. So it's really, mind you, I hope you're following. Up to this point, I've done a lot of education, a lot of workshops, a lot of research, but I'm not particularly qualified to be doing what we were doing. I just had this organization, we're like, all right, let's go for it. And so we gave out this hotline number. Now the thing is, just because someone's working in a strip club does not mean they're being trafficked. Not necessarily. It does mean, generally, it's a gateway to some type of sexual exploitation. Most of the girls we're working with were not what Hollywood portrays. It wasn't the girl getting $600 a night to pay off med school. We were coming across single moms of 2 or 3 kids that were sometimes only getting $15 to $20 a day. So they were happy to hear from us when we said, hey, we'd love to help. But anyways, from there, we started giving out our hotline number, and the calls started coming in. It wasn't just the girls in the clubs. They knew girls that were in worse situations and in trafficking situations, had a cousin that was in prostitution or whatever. From there, we trained some teams to call a website called Backpage. You all heard of Backpage? It's like the dirty version of Craigslist. Not that Craigslist is so clean, but we had teams start calling that. And then occasionally we would do street outreach, like you saw in the video. So out of those 3 outreach techniques, we gave out our hotline number and just kind of waited for a response. Well, in 2012, I'm going to explain our growth. I think we got about 10 clients we were able to serve. The phone rings all the time, but that didn't always translate to a girl saying, I'm in this situation and I want out, okay? So in 2012, we served about 10 clients by the end of that year. In 2013, we served about 30 clients, so we tripled in our second year. And this last year, 2014, we served 100 clients. So to date, I think we've helped 167 girls just in that time. Now, not all of them are strictly sex trafficking. I'd say at least 50% are legally how you would define as sex trafficking victims. Some of them are just girls that have they've fallen into pornography or prostitution, and they just want out, but they can't find a way out, either financially or someone's kind of putting pressure on them to stay in it, which is then it starts bleeding into trafficking anyway. But nonetheless, so we actually broadened our mission statement to include to serve sex trafficking victims as well as the sexually exploited. And from that, because we didn't want to tell the domestic violence mother who was working in the club to feed her kids no when she wanted help to get out. So we broadened our mission to serve that population as well. And from there, like I said, the calls just came in. So basically our process, the way Night One works for us is we literally will send a team out to pick them up and then find emergency housing with one of our local hotel partners and then work towards finding long-term placement. So Justice Ministries operates off the 4 R's. First, we reach out to the population at risk, which is the outreach efforts. Second, we relocate that population. So you call our hotline, we're going to send a team out with a minivan. We get calls, poor Melissa, she's been in nursing school, and there's times at 2 o'clock in the morning we have to get up and go pick somebody up, because no one's calling at like 4:30. It's after 10 p.m. for the most part. We'll pick them up and we'll transport them to one of our hotel partners, and that's Night One. From there we'll do an assessment and try to get them plugged in with immediate resources, get clothes, food, emergency medical need, whatever. And then the third step is rehabilitation. Right now in the Charlotte area, we have about 12 bed spaces we partner with, and for girls that stay local, that we'll work out of that, and we'll offer case management through our Rise Up program. Rise Up is the 4th. The Rise Up program is that idea of helping a girl get from this emergency dangerous situation, get the healing and needs that they need, and then eventually work towards independence in their own life. Now the tough thing is we're only about 3 years old, and we've only had a couple graduates out of our program because many of these girls, it may take 5 years until they're really back on their feet, but we're seeing progress. So the way it works is reach out, hotline calls, pick them up, get them to emergency safety. From there, find program housing to work with, and then for the girls that stay local, we offer the direct case management. Well, what's case management? Case management is we're getting you your documents back. Many of these girls come to us with no license, no birth certificate, no social security number, if they even remember it. So we have to get them back on paper as an individual. Secondly, many of them have an 8th grade education. Some, you'd be surprised, some are very educated people, but a lot of our clients, they need a GED just to be able to have that high school equivalent. We also work with therapists to get them connected with therapy sessions, and then many have been involved with drug abuse, and they need drug rehab attention as well. So that's case management, coordinating all of those needs per girl. When you get into this kind of work, you find it's not something you can just do when you feel like it. You're taking on a person in their entirety. So they've gone from utter dependence on whatever was keeping them enslaved to this, to now you got to feed them, you got to clothe them, you got to get them their meds. You might have to pay off that debt they owe that sketchy crack dealer, because he's coming for them. I mean, like, it's interesting, but I don't say that to scare you. I say that just so you know, if you go into this type of work, what you may be getting into. Where we're different than most of the groups is we don't say no very often. If a girl is sincere about needing help, we're going to do what we can to get them out. So anyways, that's kind of an overview of what we do. Some positive things is, since we've begun, we've had a couple girls graduate. We've had about 7 girls in the past year came to know the Lord, and we've had multiple babies. So many healthy babies born, because a lot of the girls come to us either pregnant or they have kids elsewhere that they're trying to regain custody to. And we help them legally with our lawyer teams do that process. But it has really been just a whirlwind of what's going on. My notes are on my phone, so I'm going to try to read carefully. But yeah, it's honestly blown my mind what God has done with just this opportunity. When I first started this, I assumed 2 things that worked out differently. First, I thought, well, heck, we'll raise the money for a big house and we'll get this thing up and running in about 6 months. I was like you guys, I was still living on that semester-to-semester lifestyle. I was used to dealing with big figures from student government, but I didn't realize that raising this money may be quite a challenge. The second part of it was I assumed we would be assisting 12 girls a year, something like that, 1 a month. And I was blown away by the increase in the volume that we've dealt with. In fact, I got a text from my partner Amy right before I came up tonight about a girl we need to transport out of state later this evening. So it's constant. But anyways, pull up my notes. So that's kind of a gist on us. At the end, I want to have more time for questions. You may have specifics I haven't gone over that I want to take the time to go over. If you're interested in interning with us or volunteering in the summers, definitely let me know about that. There's an opportunity. We're definitely pretty raw. We're not your average, hey, come to the office and lick envelopes. It ain't going down like that. You'll be transporting clients, and like, I won't put you in dangerous situations, but it'll be, you might get cussed out a good bit. So, you know, if you can handle that, sign up. But anyways, something else I just wanted to share that I kind of grew with, that some of these guys in here may relate to. When I first heard about this and got involved in this work, I just kind of had this really intense anger. I just wanted to, you know, like, I was just mad. But God really grew me in that. And he said, Mark, you know, that's not your role. That's not even my version of rescue. And as I really pondered on it, and the Lord kind of softened my heart, I saw that many of these sex buyers, as well as the traffickers, they were in bondage too. And oftentimes it was rooted in, you know, sexual abuse or something, some addiction of their own past. Not that that's an excuse. I mean, don't mishear me. Our first priority is to stop the action and get the girl out. But the Lord grew my heart for the abusers as well, because they're as lost as anybody, and they desperately need help. You talk about an unattractive group to want to do outreach with. They would be that. But anyways, what really rocked my world is that Jesus really showed me that, you know, his version of rescue was when he rescued me, he came down humbly, vulnerably, not guns blazing, no weapons, and he traded places with the person in bondage, me, for my freedom and for God's glory. And that just like, boom, knocked me over. And I was like, maybe I need to just calm down on my aggression and know that he's got it. And the Lord softened my heart in that process and helped me see that, you know what, they need to be outreach too. Are you sharing the gospel with them as well? And so that's that. I wanted to shake it up.